good, Jordy. How are you?
Perfect. Let's begin. Hello, Mr. Ray Haller. This is Jordi Tarrega from Barcelona, writing for Starway to Rock magazine in Spain. Thank you for your time and congratulations for your surprising new album, Bang. It is shocking for me because I didn't expect the name Sweet Savage playing with this music style, but I have to say that it is an amazing album.
Well, Jordy, thank you very much for saying so. I'm really glad that you like it, and I'm really thank you so much for your kind words. It's really really nice. I'm glad you like it. I love it. I um I think it's a big different a move away from what we've ever done before. Um, Simon McBride and I wrote the record, and when we sat down to say we were going to write this record, we said, let's try and stick to our core values, which is basically riffs, hard rock, heavy metal riffs. But let's try and add a little bit of modern gloss. Let's sprinkle some magic dust, modern magic dust on it. Let's bring it up to 2025. Let's make the song shorter. Let's make the solos slightly shorter. Let's try and bring in a little bit more melody so that we can maybe, bring in younger, sort of newer supporters. We don't like using the word fans because fans kind of sounds like Taylor Swift or something. So I kind of like to think myself like a football team, as in supporters. So we kind of thought that, and we've been associated with the new wave of British heavy metal. But when I meet, when I'm out gigging and I meet younger people, some of them have never heard of the new wave of British heavy metal. So it was like, we don't need to remain totally faithful and loyal to that and have an old style sound and an old style structure. Let's do what sort of all metalers like. We've stayed to our core principle that the riffs, a lot of the riffs are written on the bass, which means they're very basic. So the riffs are basic, and let's just add some new modern songs, and that's what we did, and we've come up with Bang, and we're very chuffed, and so far the response has been great.
All the responses has been great. So I suppose you are happy with the press and fan reactions about the new singles, Bang and the chosen one.
Yeah, uh, Jordy, the chosen one for one. I mean, I have to say a big thanks to Ear Music. Ear
Mhm.
Music said this should be one of the singles. I didn't hear it at all as one of the singles because it was not one of my favorite songs. And they said, no, 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 this is it. This is the chosen one. You got to do it. So we said, well, you know what you're talking about. You're the boss. You do it. Now I love the song. The number of people that have said to me about that song, especially females, they say, I like it. I can sing it. I can dance to it. I enjoy it. So that has been a revelation in doing the chosen one.
I have to say that my favorite song of the album is the chosen one. I love the video clip, by the way, but I have to say too that is one of the best songs that I have listened to in these last 5 years.
Wow.
So yeah, 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 yeah. And I am the journalist. I was shocked because I'm talking about Nasty Savage playing this kind of song, and why this song is magic. Okay, it's Simon McBride, the old band, but the sound, but especially this song, I think it's amazing.
Wow. Well, again, thank you very much for saying so because it's when you're writing them, Jordy, you don't know. You know what I mean? You're kind of like you're kind of fiddling in the dark. It's kind of like, okay, is it good? Well, I think it's good, but I have a biased opinion because I wrote it. I don't know. I don't really know. And then when the guys from Mere Music said, "Look, guys, this is a great song. Put it out," I was like, oh, "Okay, these guys know what they're talking about." They put it out, and the reaction has been like, "Wow." I a lot of it, Jordy, was luck. I had the riff. Simon and I come up with the riff. Simon and I wrote that record in the room I'm speaking to you from, which is my living room. we wrote it in little practice apps with a wee dopey drum machine. Bump a smack to keep ourselves in time. You don't know if these things are going to translate to good songs or not. Um, but we went ahead with it and we did it, and the reaction to that song has been absolutely fantastic. I'm not saying that we wrote the song with any idea that we would capture female followers or supporters, but it's definitely very. There's a lot of females have said I really like the song because one, I understand what you're saying, I can understand the lyrics, and I can dance to it, so it's a winner, and it's amazing. That's the nicest compliment I've heard what you have said because you listen obviously to a lot of music. You're a journalist. For you to say it's one of the best songs you've heard in the last 5 years is an incredible endorsement. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's talk about another songs. For example, "Leave Me Alone." I can feel some influences of the '90s and especially Alice in Chains. Am I right?
Well, you're not the first man to say that about Alice in Chains. I kind of I kind of half stole that riff from Deep Purple. It's a
Uh-huh.
it's a bit like I can't remember the Deep Purple song, but it's so I kind of wrote that on the bass, down 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 down. So it's a really basic. To me, it reminds me of Deep Purple meets Black Sabbath meets Led Zeppelin. That's what I had in my head. But I think a lot of people are saying the Alice in Chains things because of the slow vocal, the
Yeah.
the the low, yeah. And I honestly didn't set out to rip off Alice in Chains or whatever. It's just the way I heard the song. Again, I had in my head, I had kind of like Deep Purple in my head because when I was growing up as a kid, I had Deep Purple posters all over my wall. I had Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin posters all over my wall. So to me, I was going down the Deep Purple route with that song. Um, I'm loving it. I'm loving it that people are saying Alice in Chains because I love them. And I didn't actually even think about it until the first journalist said to me, was that? And I was like, wow, I see where you're coming from. And I was chuffed. I was really chuffed. You know, pleasantly surprised when somebody said that. And you know what? I would say that's possibly my favorite song on the record.
If I am asking about this song, it's because it's one of my favorites too. Uh, Nowadays, Sweet Savage is formed by you, Marty, and Phil, but Simon McBride, former member of the band, played the guitar too in this album. I interviewed him 3 years ago, and he told me that he was still in contact with Nasty Savage, and he used it to help when it was possible. So wow, but I didn't expect this album. So nowadays, Sweet Savage are three members plus Simon McBride.
Well, Simon, so we're doing an Irish tour, Jordy, and we're starting in December. And Simon's going to do it with us. But next year, Simon is on tour with Deep Purple from the end of February until November. So I have to find a new guitar player. So we're going to start looking for a guitar player because Sweet Savage has really always been a four-piece. We did a few gigs and we did a few festivals as a three-piece, simply because we wanted to go and do the festivals and keep our name out there. But the band has always been a four-piece. When I started the band with Vivian Campbell and Trevor, we wanted to be Thin Lizzy. We wanted to be thin. We wanted to be look like Thin Lizzy but sound like Motorhead. That's who we wanted to be. So the band is, in my eyes, has always been a four-piece band. So we want to get back to being a four-piece. Northern Ireland only has a population of 1.9 million in total. Trying to find trying to find a guitar player is hard enough. Trying to find a hard rock heavy metal guitar player is near on impossible. So I don't know what the hell we're going to do, but we're open for suggestions. If you have anybody in mind that lives in your neck of the woods, give me a shout. We definitely need to get a second guitar player. It would be lovely to have Simon in the band, but it's impossible. It's not going to happen. Um, he will always help out. I see Simon all the time. I'm scheduled to see Simon either tomorrow or Saturday, Sunday. He only lives about 20 miles away from me. We get together quite a lot. Um, I have new ideas for another record, so I'm already talking to him whether we will ever. I would like him to. I'd like him to produce the next record because I love working with him. He makes because he's such an incredible. Simon is an incredible drummer. He is an incredible keyboard player. I mean, he would give Don Urey a run for his money playing keyboards. Obviously he's an incredible bass player. I have another band, Jordy, and Simon was the drummer in the band. He didn't even play guitar, so we had a guitar player, and it was a three-piece band: a guitar player, myself, and Simon drummed. So he's possibly one of the best drummers I've ever worked with, him playing naturally. So working with Simon speeds the process up so much because you have an idea. I mean, I'm very open and honest about anything. I'll answer it anyway. A lot of this was written with me humming riffs into my iPhone, saying, "I have this riff, Simon. I think it would work," and I hum it. And he would laugh and say, "Play it," and then he would play it and say, "No, it doesn't work." And so he can make things so fast that it's either going to work or it's not going to work. Whereas if you're in a rehearsal studio with a band, it takes four members to learn how to do it. Then we all learn how to do it, and then we all look at each other and go, "No, that's shit. It's not working," and we've just wasted all that time. So we don't waste any time when you're working with Simon. Um, he's going to be a hard man to replace. He really is, but he helps out all the time, and any opportunity he can, he always helps out. I speak to him all the time. Even when he's on tour with Deep Purple, I speak to him very, very regularly.
I have to say that the first time that I attended to a Simon McBride concert was in 2017 in a little venue in a small festival in Catalonia in Spain, and he was the first band opening, well, playing as a trio, and I was wondering why this guy is not playing in front of crowds. He's amazing, and later, years later, it happened. So it's great. It's an amazing musician. Yeah.
Yeah, it never shocked me, Jolly, that he. I mean, I knew once. It all happened for Simon because you know he's endorsed by PRS Guitars,
Hmm.
and the guy who owns PRS is a friend of Don Urey's, and Don Urey said he needed a guitar player, and the guy from PRS says, "I know a guy, he's an Irish guy, Simon McBride." So Simon went over to have a jam with Don Urey, and Simon recorded guitar on one of Don Urey's solo records. And then when the whole thing came up about Steve Morse having to go home because
Mhm.
he was ill, the obvious choice was Simon McBride because Don Urey had worked with him, and like Don Urey is a professor of music,
Yeah.
So when Don Urey went to the rest of the guys in Deep Purple and said, "Look, I think I've got the guy," they were kind of like, "Whoa, well, if you're impressed by him, he must be bloody good." So, and this is like this.
Hmm.
It's not top secret stuff. They were ready to do a week's rehearsal, and Simon turned up for the first rehearsal, and the rest of the boys just said, "Well, we don't need to rehearse anymore.
Hmm.
You know the stuff." I mean, that's the caliber of this guy as a musician. He's just, he's just like he's an alien. He's not a human being. He's an alien. You know,
Hmm.
his knowledge of music and how he interprets it and plays it is just beyond belief. And the other thing that which I love about him, Jordy, is the fact he's so humble. He's just he's just a dude like you and me. You know,
Hmm.
he'd prefer to talk about motorbikes and football and the normal things that blokes like to stand at the bar and have a pint and talk shit about. He'd prefer to do that. There's no superstardom at all. You know, we go down. I go down to his house. I was down last week. I go down to his house. He's the one makes the sandwiches. He's the one makes a cup of tea. He's the one washes the dishes. You know, he's just a normal dude, and that's what I love about him. And you know what? The other wacky thing as well. So is Vivian Campbell. Vivian Campbell, who was the originator. You know, him and I formed the band. I seen Viv on Monday. Viv just went back to the States. He was doing a big gig with Def Leppard in London. So he flew home to see his family here in Ireland. Vivian Campbell's the same, you know. You know?
Well, amazing guitar players in your band.
Lucky. Really, 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 really lucky. You know.
Okay, how do you can define your music style nowadays? It is dark and some songs remind me the 19th, but in some other songs, industrial. But it's like industrial, but not made with sounds. It's with the guitars, and it's really interesting. So, do you agree?
Oh, I do, 100%. And again, I mean, that goes down to Simon because Simon Simon does the most unbelievable things with guitar pedals and guitar effects. There's loads of things like some of the journalists said to me, it's the first time Sweet Savage ever used synthesizers. And I said, no synthesizers on it. It's all guitar. It's all loops with guitar and guitar effects. It's all Simon making these mad noises. I mean, you seen him play with Deep Purple? Have you
Yes, 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 of course. Twice.
like is I mean his guitar solo, when he stands up there and he does his Eddie Van Halen thing, on his own, the guitar sounds and the effects that he uses, I mean, it's just incredible. So the industrial thing, we didn't really set out to. We didn't. I mean, I don't even know I don't. I wouldn't even know what industrial. People have said to me, "You sound a bit like Nine Inch Nails." I,
Mhm.
I don't really know Nine Inch Nails. It's not a band that I would be very au fait with. Um, so we didn't set out to make it industrial. It just kind of we just kind of wanted to be a little bit modern, to move away from being new wave of British heavy metal, because I kind of think that there's a lot of when I see younger metalers, a lot of them have never heard of the new wave of British heavy metal. They're just like they either like the music, or don't like the music. They're not sort of tied in, and you've moved away from your roots. You used to be new wave of British heavy metal. There was none of that. So Simon and I thought about, right, we'll make the song shorter, we'll make the solos shorter. In some of the tracks, shorty, there's no solos, there's no good. So you have this outrageous guitar player, and he doesn't even want to play guitar solos. He said, Ray, times are changing. It's okay for Deep Purple. Deep Purple are famous for Richie Blackmore, 10-minute guitar solos. We have to do that. But, Sweet Savage is not famous for big, long guitar solos. Let's put more songs on, as opposed to, doing 6 songs and each of the songs has an 8-minute guitar solo. So everything about it was accidental. It was a natural thing. There was nothing at all contrived about that record. When we did it, he said to me, "What about some backing vocals like in the Chosen one?" It was like, "Yeah, well, so what do you got in mind?" That's all. That was Simon with those backing vocals. Um, so they were just a new thing, which musically I thought um, were good to have. It was just good to have. Good music put on it. So if it was backing vocals, that's what we did. It was just a natural thing. There was nothing about it was contrived. We didn't set out to record an industrial record. It was just a natural evolution of what we were trying to do.
Okay, let's go back to the past, and I want to ask you about how it was for a band from Belfast to start playing rock, the new wave of British heavy metal.
Sorry, it was a nightmare. It
Yeah.
was a nightmare. Ireland, Ireland, North and South is famous for country and western. You couldn't get a gig, you couldn't get a studio, you couldn't get anyone. My hair was your length. People thought I was a weirdo. I mean, you're dealing with one of the most conservative countries in Europe, and you had four dudes with long hair who are playing this music that no one understands. There was nowhere to play. We're in the middle of a conflict.
Yeah.
You know, it was just a disaster. But I grew up listening to Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Zeppelin, all the usual suspects. That's what we all. Thin Lizzy, Phil Lynott was my hero. I wanted to be Phil Lynott. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hence the reason why I'm playing the bass. I mean, still to this day, my bass is a black precision with a rosewood neck and a mirror scratch plate. And every time I break the mirror scratch plate, I get a new mirror scratch plate. So Phil Lynott was my hero, and but we couldn't get a gig. We couldn't get anything, nothing, and then this metal scene evolved, and there was the shittiest pub that no one ever went to because it was so dirty and disgusting, and that turned into a heavy metal club. So then we had somewhere to play. So when we started, it was all playing at school dances, school whatever, no money, nothing. Everything was funded by our parents, constantly going to borrow money. Um, you know, I laugh at this. I pass this place in Belfast when I'm driving through it. It used to be a music shop. It's not a music shop anymore. And I remember I walked from that place. I must have walked, and must have been at least a mile with the amplifier on my shoulder to take the bus home. The very first amp that I bought, I'm walking through Belfast with it on my shoulder to get the bus home. Everything was against us as a heavy metal band in Northern Ireland. And then the other thing, we couldn't get any record companies to come to Belfast to look at us because there was bombs going off, there's shootings, there's killings, there's car bombs. The the best hotel in Belfast was the Europa Hotel. It was the most bombed hotel in the world. So, you're sending a record company, would you come over and see us? And I go, no, no, we're not going to Belfast. Send us another demo tape or you come to us. But if you're a working class kid and you've no dough and you're relying on your parents, I mean, taking four guys to London, we weren't even old enough to rent the van. We had to get a guy to rent the van. And to go to London was like trying to drive to Australia. It was just like, it was a bridge too far. So it was really, really hard back in those days for every reason. Nobody understood the music. There was no money around. There was no venues. There was no studios, and no record companies would come to look at you.
But I want to show you something because you finally find a record label. It's Neat
Yeah,
Records.
yeah,
So how it was to find a record? Well, I think it's a legendary. When you see the list of bands here, it's wow, and you were there.
yeah. So the band was way on the decline, and then Metallica took Killing Time. So when they took Killing Time and recorded Killing Time, then the band went like this, and then Neat Metal came and said, "Would you be interested in doing a record?" I was like, "Right, where were you? You know, in the early '80s when we needed you." But anyhow, so we said, "Well, you know what? Let's do a record. It's going to cost us nothing. Let's put this record out." So Neat Metal came and they gave us a record deal, and we put out the first record, and then they give us another to do another one. So we put out two, and on both those records, Jordy, is Simon McBride. Simon was so young that we had to get his parents' permission to bring him to Newcastle upon Tyne to record the record. But if Neat had come to us, in 1982, when the new wave of British heavy metal was new and was happening, you know, I think we would have been up there with Iron Maiden, Def Leppard, and Saxon. I think that we could have competed because the quality of the material was good enough, the songs were good enough, the musicianship was good enough. That's both been proven by the fact that Metallica took a song they thought was good enough quality to record, and the fact that we had two guitar players that have since moved on to playing some of the biggest rock bands in the world, Def Leppard, Deep Purple. So the quality of the band and the music and the musicianship was there, but unfortunately, Neat Metal came 10 years too late. If it had been 10 years earlier, you know, would have been a much bigger band, and I'd be living in the south of Spain now. You know.
But when Metallica recorded Killing Time, uh, was the B side of the Unforgiven, I think. Oh, wow. Uh, that single sold millions,
Yeah,
and you were there.
yeah. I mean, I can't thank Metallica enough. I mean, they've just been so good to us. Every time they come to town, I get a call. Do you want to come to the show? Um, I I maybe have contact with Metallica maybe once a year. They're coming to Ireland next year, so I'm hoping I'm going to go and see them. I'm hoping I'm going to have a beer with them or whatever. Um, I can't thank them enough. They've just been so good to us and so helpful. As I say, they stopped Sweet Savage from getting into extinction, because if Metallica hadn't have done Killing Time, we were just on our way down the whole way to the point where you'd have been forgotten about. As soon as that Killing Time came out, that's when the phone started ringing again. The agents, the promoters, the festival runners, that's when it all took off again. And that's when Neat Metal came and said, "Would you like to do a record?" Because they obviously seen that, well, you know what, there's a lot more people now are going to know the name of this band simply because Metallica have done a song. And after the Neat Metal thing, that was the first time that Sweet Savage actually got to go to America to do a gig. So we went out and did a gig in America, and that was all on the back of Metallica doing Killing Time, Neat Records putting out the album. That wouldn't have happened if Metallica hadn't done Killing Time.
And you have sang with Metallica Killing Time on stage.
Yeah, I've done it a few times. Yeah, it was.
Oh,
I
in
mean,
Belfast or
Dublin and
in Dublin.
and Dublin. Yeah, Dublin. James got up to sing with us, and then they came back like a year later, and I got up to sing with them, and then they flew me out to San Francisco, to sing it in San Francisco, which was just incredible. I mean, it's like a movie, it's like a Hollywood movie. Um, you know, you get this. I mean, I still to this day, Jordy, I get guys, saying to me, "Tell me about Metallica, blah blah blah, Metallica." I get emails, I get Facebook messages, I get whatever, and I come down in this house where I live. I come down and I checked my emails, and there was this thing Metallica, and I thought, somebody asked me about Metallica, and then I had a cup of tea, and then I went back to look at my emails, and I was like, "Whoa, this is from the management company." Forget the name of the management company.
The
Uh,
management or the member?
their management company
Oh,
from.
okay.
I was like, "Metallica would like you to come to San Francisco," and I thought, "Yeah, it's a bit of a wind up." And then I read it and read it more, and I thought, "This is legit." So I phoned and said, "Yeah, they're having a 30th year anniversary, and they'd like you to come out to sing." So I was like, "Right, okay." So I went out. So they paid for everything. They flew us all out. I brought my best mate. They paid for it. We flew out. They picked up the tab, stayed in a 5-star hotel, went rehearsed with Metallica, hung out with Metallica, got up and sang a 3-minute song, treated like royalty, private driver, you name it. Everything. It was just like a Hollywood movie. To do this, and again, because that went out, then the next year the festivals were bigger because well, if you're good enough to play with Metallica, you're good enough to come and do our festival. It was incredible, just the fact of going to sing that song with them, and also they recorded it and they put it out on their social media channels, so a lot of people got to see that, and that was unbelievably helpful. It really was.
So we can say that Sweet Savage is connected with Metallica, Dio, Def Leppard, and Deep Purple. Not bad. Not bad.
Hey, Judy, why am I poor?
Okay, I want to ask you about the name of the band. So why Sweet Savage? Because it sounds like a contradiction.
Yes, well, so so the first round of it was because I was a mad Deep Purple fan. So when Tommy Bolin joined Deep Purple, he had a solo record called Teaser. So the band was actually called Teaser. And then when we started writing our own material, and we thought, well, you know what, we're going to have a go at this. We're going to try and record, get a record deal, and go on to be a proper band. We thought the name's not really good, so we thought about, okay, we need to come up with a name. So all our favorite bands, Def or Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath. So that's why we come up with Sweet Savage, because Sweet Savage sounded a bit like Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath. So that's the reason why it came straight. It was the only one we kind of could find which had the three syllables, or the three bits in it. So that's why we got it. Um, so it was just because it sounded like Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin.
Interesting. Okay, let's go for a difficult one. Which is the first album you bought with your own money?
The first album I bought with my own money. You're
Yeah.
you're gonna, you're going to think that I am just a Deep Purple nut. The first record I bought with my own money was a Deep Purple Greatest Hits, which was 24 Karat Purple. Um, that was the first record I bought with my own money, and I can remember what the second record was I bought with my own money. Well, it was Pile Driver by Status Quo. So that they were the first two albums, and then probably I'd say my third album was one of the Led Zeppelin ones. Maybe you know I don't know. I mean, I ended up I bought every Led Zeppelin. In fact, I think I bought every Deep Purple record as well. But the first record I ever bought was Deep Purple's 24 Karat Purple, because it was a greatest hit. So it had a lot of stuff on it, and it was cheap because that's all I could afford.
Finishing. Do you remember the first time you cried in a concert? Do you remember the song and the band that was playing?
First time I cried.
In a concert.
Uh,
Tell,
I don't think I've ever. I don't think I've ever. I don't think I've ever cried at a concert. I don't think that I can remember anyway. But I do remember that I supported with Sweet Savage. I supported Deep Purple, and uh, because I had an access all area pass, I was standing on the side of the stage, just behind Ian Pace, and they started playing "Smoke in the Water." And as a kid, if anyone had said to me, one day you will stand on the stage when Deep Purple were playing Smoke in the Water, I would have thought they were absolutely crazy. So if I didn't cry then, I definitely came close to it, because I remember I had unbelievable goosebumps that, here I am standing on a stage with the guys, Ian Gillan singing, who wrote Smoke in the Water, and I'm not playing in the band, but at least I'm standing on the same piece of timber, and there they were playing it. So that was it was definitely a big emotional moment. I don't know if I cried or not, but it was a big emotional moment to be standing on that stage when they played that.
Great to know. The last one is not a question. If you can say, hello, this is Ray Haller. Please check my interview in Stairway to Rock.
Okay. How you doing? This is Ray Haller from Sweet Savage. Please check out my interview on Stairway to Rock. And it's been a pleasure speaking to you. So I hope you find the interview interesting. And if I can do anything to help in any other shape or form, please get in contact with me. And I hope you love our new record, Bang.
It's perfect. Okay, I have to say that I am reviewing a lot of albums, but I started with Sweet Savage, and I want to finish the first one. So it's something you can feel something special in this album. And Ear Music, it's a really good and strong company. If they are they won you. I think, but you had something really, and it will work. Hope to see you maybe someday in Barcelona, in Spain, or summer festivals.
Jordy, I'd love to, and certainly we are anywhere. Please come up and say hello. First beer is on me. I'll buy the beers.
It's perfect. Okay, see you and thank you.
Jordy, thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much. Thanks a million.